the MB750, especially if their foot gets to the offside here, which often they do, these tabs shred their mouth to pieces if they get that around that. And because it's something that hooks on to bite, it's kind of a thing they grab. That's one of the things I really hate about these. And even is it the Bridger, I think, with the big tab coming out?
Yeah.
When you have the great big tab coming out, you think it's easy to hold on to set. Yeah, it's nice, but there's also something there to get on. And with wolves specifically, on footholds, any big clunky bits coming out anywhere is just shredding that out to pieces often. So low profile, kind of minimal stuff going on.
That one's what brand?
What are these ones?
That's Bob Beer's
those
trap.
are Bob Beer's,
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, Ken.
Yeah. No, that's good. So
Bob Beers?
yeah. So Beers.
Okay.
So you can see here, I'll just pass that around. This is a 1/8 inch lock, and it's just done in logwood crystal. That's the way I used to do all mine. Now I don't snare anymore. I was just going to show you, just to give you guys an idea, we used to use the 1/8 inch cable all the time. I used to just spray paint them like this here. You can see different colors, and so that makes them really dull and easy to hide. Now, there's different size. If you're going to use a disposable stake for your traps and that, lots of times if you want a gang set for trapping, you want to hold your wolves in the same area, right? If you have a really good spot where there's not a lot of people going and hiking in and stuff like that, that would be perfect. So there's a Berkshire stake that is flat. Do not buy that sucker, because I've had 2 disposable Berkshire stakes driven at an angle, and I caught a 180-pound cat, and he bent both of those there stakes and pulled them out of the ground, and then it took me a long time to get permission from that cougar was in a trap for 3 days when I could have had cougar hounds out there and got them out within a couple of hours. But I had to go through all the rigmarole and get all the permits before I could get the cats in there to hunt. So this is the one that I build, and so you have a stake that goes and pounds in the ground, and all I do is I cut a piece of pipe at a 45, right? And I weld that onto a stake that'll go through the hole here. So when you pound that into the ground, all you got to do is you give it a pull. So you pound it in the ground like this, you give it a pull, it goes like that, and it can't come out of the ground. That's why they call it a disposable stake.
So there's a stake that goes through that too?
This is the stake here.
Oh, okay.
The driver goes through the hole here to drive it into the ground.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a piece of rebar with a T on it.
So Ken, that's one you made yourself, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because there's one that the ATA office sells that looks very similar to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like this here,
Yeah,
bullet type,
okay.
right? Yeah. So if you got a bunch of old pipe laying around, you can make those stuff yourself. They're pretty easy. I like drags for a lot of reasons. I can use a drag to catch an animal, and it can get away. Now, I have in here a 750. Well, let's see, I got a lot of other junk in there. So these wolf traps here, you have to really be careful with them, because you see how the jaws come up, and like Duncan was saying, there's stuff for them to chew on. But not only that, if you dry fire these, sometimes I've had in my class, I've had these springs blow apart. So I don't want you guys to be setting this one. I'll pass it around, but you'll see the size of the pan and everything, how big they are compared to the ones that I use. There's a lot of power in this trap, and I don't want to see anybody get hit in the face.
Which trap is that one?
This is brawn, Bridger brawn. Yeah.
I think that's a 9.
Yeah, that's the number 9, yeah.
There's the Alaska Bridger and then the Virgin Rod, I think, right?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different bridges. You can get that certified as a power snare, but I'll tell you, the way wolves can chew cable, I would never use a power snare on a wolf. They work good on bears and that, but do not use one of those power snares on a wolf because they can just bite that cable and they're out of there in no time flat. So other than that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys, I've got a bunch of traps here that we can use out in the field here. There's a whole pile more that we could show you, but we're going to be running out of time shortly. So we got a bunch of gear here that we can use, but I'm going to show you guys how I set one of these wolf traps and the proper way to handle them.
Bob Beers.
I use Bob Beers without a doubt. That's
Just to you guys to understand too, the trap going around, the size of the pan versus this one here. The reason you want a small pan is the foot is more in the trap when it fires. Big pan, it could be a little toe right on the edge of that pan. Half their foot is not even in the trap yet, and it's already firing. So a small pan, they got a big foot. They can be half on that. The little area it's gonna fire is still quite good. But it gets rid of clearly on there, half of it on the jaw, pushing the foot out situation.
So there's different types of trap setters, and usually if you got a Bridger, Braun, or whatever, Alaskan number 9 and that, you got to have special setters for them. The setters that I got made here, I got 2 different sets that you can see here. This one here, they get banged around in the classes. So they'll work on all your traps. So you can either have them like this here. This one here will work on this trap, but it might not work on a number 9. But because it can slide up and down, it'll work on all of them. Okay. And this here is a one-handed trap setter that I got my buddy Bob Beers to make for me. So basically what you do is you hook the spring in there, like so. And then you take one of these other ones you hook it in that spring, and so then you can just take and pull this down. Oh yeah.
That's just doing it on cement for you.
Yeah, that cement is. So anyway, you get the idea how that works. It's hard on the cement. If I had I'll just use this one here. But anyway, that one just comes around, and what it does is it comes around and it hooks. This one comes down and it hooks onto here, and it holds the trap. But I like using this one here because it is a little easier for me. And this is the way I set all my wolf traps. Okay, now you see this is a free jaw, so I push that jaw down, I bring the pan up. Now you'll see there's some tension there. You want to make sure that you don't let go of your trap setter so they fly in your face, okay? And so this is the proper way to handle these things. If you grab them by the springs here and you get your thumb caught in there, this is what your thumb might look like. Not that I know anything about that, right? And so while I'm setting that trap, if I set it off to the side like that, if I accidentally hit it, it goes off and I don't get caught, right?
Yeah.
Is that the kind of traps you use?
These are the kind of traps that I use, yeah, yeah. So,
That's a 750. Yeah.
no, this is Bob Beers.
Oh,
Yeah, you'll see it if you look in the trapping magazine.
Well, they don't have size specifications on them?
They do, there's a number with it, but Bob Beers only makes this one size for the whole.
Yeah. So when you guys want to set these out there, this is the way to set them safely. Okay.
Yeah, when you're sneaking them under the snow, like we were talking about, tunneling
Yeah.
before, then, yeah, basically the same thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Just that you have to have that jaw down in order to sneak it in.
You want to take that off my hand for me?
You did that on
He just wants you to see they're meant to catch and hold,
Yeah,
not maim.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can see that if he would have pulled on that chain, there's no way that I would have been able to get my hand out of it.
Yeah.
And you can see that these here, this trap has been treated, this has been about 4 or 5 years ago.
Still good.
With that gas-based dye. And I don't know how many students, I've put on at least 15, 20 courses where guys have gone through these with this trap, and it needs to be touched up a little bit, but you can see where they've been banged around. And so if you see them banged around a little bit, and you can see shiny marks on them like that and that, so all you need to do is take and re-dip them. Now, the thing that I wanted to show you guys about the drag, so there's two really good set of trap setters there, this is really important. So you need to have some swivels, okay? The shock absorber's gone off of this one. What I had on them was I was using bed springs. I can't find bed springs anymore. And so you catch a wolf, and unless it was a really big wolf, they wouldn't break and stretch the bed spring out. But if you're catching a real big wolf on it, they'll stretch that bed spring, so I would just replace them. So we have way, way better shock absorbers now that you can buy from the ATA. Yeah, yeah. And yeah. And another thing is, don't buy a swivel like this one here. When I made these things years and years ago, this is the best swivel you could get at that time. I've lost a couple of wolves that I got them back later on, but I lost a couple of wolves on traps because these pulled apart. The new swivels are a crunch-proof swivel, and they're a lot thicker of a swivel. And so that's why you want to make sure that you check your gear. So this is a swivel that I'm talking about right here. So you can see the difference in the two swivels on how thick they're made. You see that?
Box swivel or something?
Yeah, but you can see the difference in the thickness, right?
So the good one is called what? The good swivel?
They're crunch-proof swivels. They're called as crunch-proof, yeah. And so if you make them like this here so that you can break them apart, you can change them out real quick. So if you're gonna stake your traps down, whether you're using disposable stakes or whether you're using just a stake like a rebar made into a stake, I recommend for wolves you always cross stake, and you have a swivel point there, and you want to make sure that you have at least 2 feet of chain. Can anybody guess why I want 2 feet of chain there?
So you can't pump it out?
Exactly, so he can't pump that stake out of the ground. So you've trapped coyotes before, eh? Yeah. They'll pump it out, yeah.
Those 24-inch stakes in frozen ground, you can pull those out.
Yeah. So if you cross stake them and you have a swivel on that makes quite a difference. And those disposable stakes, you won't pull them suckers out. If they're put in the ground and it freezes.
How deep are you putting those ones in?
18 inches. Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
But if you're in really sandy ground, it might even need to be more.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I wouldn't even use, in sandy ground, I wouldn't even use, I would use this. So easy
Don't dig right in.
so easy to bury that in sandy ground, right? And put your trap on top of it. So there's pros and cons to that. On frozen ground, the drag is nice because I don't have to dig and bed everything in. If I want to, if there's a tree around there, I can wrap this here drag around a tree and hook it back in the chain, and it's just like it's anchored, right? So I can wrap that as many times as I want to get him as close to that tree as I want. But if I want to trap that wolf in wide open ground and the ground's froze for 2 feet, 3 feet, like you say, that stakes, you put a stake in the ground and a wolf will pull that stake right up and out and he's gone. Whereas he can pull this and he ain't going to pull it very far and you're going to find him.
We use a 3/4 inch, 3-foot rebar. Is it not on the end of it?
Yeah.
Hold it on and pound it straight in.
Yeah,
And it's got a swivel on it. You go round and round and round.
yeah,
I haven't lost a wolf for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and as
yeah.
long as your length is okay,
yeah.
your angles are gonna be good,
And the swivel.
and the swivel, yeah.
Yeah.
Straight down and you're done.
Yeah,
But you always just wanna worry, it's cause you can get a jumper too sometimes.
Okay.
It's very unlikely, but if they're really jumpy and they're getting up over top, if you're single staked, it doesn't matter how good or how tight it was, you get a cold hot spell or a change in thickness of the metal or anything and it can slip. The double staking is good because there's no direction you can pull it where it's slipping out with the X double.
Yeah.
Right? But it's, I mean, if you're down deep and it's good solid, you got good swivels, you know, you don't have to
Not
stress
on the
it.
top, so you just
Yeah.
swirl around.
Exactly.
Frozen.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
You know, if
Oh,
I got a good tree root, I use an 8-inch spike root.
Oh, yeah, a spike will work in a tree root. Yeah.
You're not gonna pull that spike
Yeah.
out. I can't.
You know what else works good on a tree root? You get those there, like you, if you've got a drill with you, lots of guys who use a drill to make a hole for dirt hole sets. You take and you clamp one of those there big wood screws with an eye on it. You screw that into the root of the tree, screw a couple in there and they're gonna be there. Yeah. So think out of the box. When anybody tells you that there's only one way to trap and one way to do things, there isn't, right? And so the day is getting a little shorter there and we're past noon. Some of the things that I use quite a bit usually, I don't have all my gear here because Duncan said that he had some here and he was trying to help me so that I didn't have to pack so much stuff up. I slipped and hurt my back last week. So a shovel like this, lots of guys use these for dirt holes. I don't. The only thing I use this for is for getting my trap out of the ground if it's froze. You guys are going to see how I use wax paper to bed my traps and that. And so it's easy to take and pry in there and pop that job free with that wax paper because there'll be that little barrier, right? I usually have 2 or 3 different thicknesses of sifters because when I get in that really windy country where it can get 110 kilometers an hour, you want bigger material. If we had a little more time, I'd show you a few videos of that, of the dirt hole set that I'm making. So when I make a dirt hole set, I'll try to make it higher like that, and so at a V, so that when the wind comes, it hits it and it pushes the wind to the sides, and then it saves you from losing a lot of dirt on the pan of your trap. Downhill like that there in the wind, the wolf will pick up the scent a lot better of what you have at your dirt hole. And 90% of the time, if I have a dirt hole, we'll say I have a dirt hole near the coffee pot there, I'll have at least 1 or 2 trails where I'll have just a trap on the trail, and then another 50 yards down the trail, I'll have a P-post, right? And if I'm gonna really gang set in a spot where that I know that there is a rendezvous site, I like to make a dirt hole just out of sight of another dirt, whether it's one's up on top of a bank and one is down near the creek or whatever, just so they can't see each other. So when they get caught, they start going around, and sometimes the pups will forget, especially if one gets caught and it takes off with a drag and goes a little ways. the other one will forget and he'll snoop around and then he'll go and he'll find your dirt hole, right? We got 3, 4 traps. I like these here brooms better than those plastic ones. They seem to last a lot better. And you were asking, well, how do you tell whether your trap is froze down? If I can go, another thing I like about the Bob Beers trap, not this one here, this one is legal because I got him to make a dozen of these here soft catches and he never had them tested. So it's good for in the classes and stuff. You can see how I got caught in that thing and I didn't lose my hand. But this one is legal. It's laminated offset, and I did that myself. You can see how I welded it up there so it's thicker. And the lamination is to give more surface area, because a 64th of an inch is what they wanted more on there. I can't believe that. But in order for it to pass, no bruising and no damage to the foot, it had to be offset and it had to be built up that 64th of an inch. And if you look at this trap, you'll see these 2 little knobs here that makes it the offset that's welded on them. When I've got this trap open, I can put my sifter right on those 2 knobs and I can sift the whole thing in, fill it full of dirt, and then I can just go like that and I'm up and I'm gone and I'm away. Whereas if you try that with the bronze and that, you see that on these traps, the pan sits lower than the jaw, always, by that much, right? And so, yeah. So that's just a few more things that on the trapping end of it. I love leg holding. It's a big challenge.
Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're gonna like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. Click like, it all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.